The nightmare always started the same way. Black screen, the rumble of a 60-ton machine, radio static crackling through the headset like angry insects. Then the voice, always the same voice, young, confident, alive. Bravo 26, this is Bravo 24, eyes on 3 Iraqi T-72s, bearing 090, range 2,400 meters. Request permission to engage. In the dream, Captain James Brennan's 25-year-old voice responded exactly as it had 34 years ago. Bravo 24, you are cleared hot. Move forward for better angle. I'll cover your 6. The sound of the 120-millimeter cannon firing. 3 shots. 3 kills. Then the sound that would haunt him for 3 decades. Metal tearing, an explosion. Screaming. Bravo 26, this is 24. We hit a mine. The tank is burning. Oh God, we're burning. Danny, get out, get out. I can't. The screaming lasted exactly 42 seconds. Brennan had counted every single one. Then silence. Then the smell. Even in dreams, he could smell burning flesh. Captain James Brennan woke in his bedroom in Fort Benning, Georgia at 03:47 hours. The sheets were soaked with sweat. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. He was 59 years old, and he still couldn't outrun February 26, 1991. He sat on the edge of the bed, feet on the cold floor, waiting for his breathing to slow. The room was dark except for the green glow of the alarm clock. On the nightstand sat a framed photograph. Margaret, his wife, dead 4 years now. Cancer had taken her the same way the mine had taken Danny, slowly, painfully, while he watched and could do nothing. I'm sorry, Maggie, he whispered to the photograph, still having the dreams. The photograph didn't answer. It never did. He stood, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face. The mirror showed him what he already knew. Gray hair, lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth. A scar on his left temple from Iraq. 2004. Another on his right forearm from a training accident in 2011. The face of a man who had spent 35 years commanding tanks, and 20 of those years trying to forget one particular order. 6 months until retirement. 6 months until he could finally stop pretending the nightmares would ever end. He didn't go back to bed. He never did after the nightmare. Instead, he put on his running clothes and went out into the pre-dawn darkness of the Georgia morning. 5 miles. The same route he'd run for 3 years, ever since Margaret died and the house became too quiet to bear. His knee ached. Old injury from a hard landing during airborne training, 1989. His shoulder clicked with each arm swing. Shrapnel from Fallujah, 2005. His body was a catalog of wars and accidents, each scar a story he tried not to tell. But he ran anyway, because if he stopped moving, the ghost caught up. By 06:30, he was showered and in uniform, driving through the gates of Fort Benning toward the tank training ranges. The sun was just breaking over the tree line, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear the rumble of Abrams engines. The sound was as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. The M1A2 Abrams main battle tank, 68 tons of composite armor, turbine engine, and 120-millimeter smoothbore gun. Top speed 42 miles per hour, range 265 miles. Crew of 4. He had commanded variations of this machine for most of his adult life. It was the only thing he truly understood. At the range, 20 young soldiers were already assembled. Fresh faces, baby faces. Most of them weren't even born when Brennan fought in Desert Storm. They stood in neat rows, eyes forward, waiting for instruction. Good morning, warriors, Brennan said, his voice carrying across the assembly area without needing to shout. 35 years of command presence. Today we continue at turret operations. You will learn to acquire targets, calculate range, and engage hostile armor at extended distances. You will do this until you can do it in your sleep. You will do this until it becomes instinct. Because when the real shooting starts, you won't have time to think. You'll only have time to act. He paused, looking at each face. So young, so eager, so unaware of what combat actually meant. Some of you think this is a game, he continued. Some of you think war is like the movies. Let me tell you what war actually is. War is your best friend screaming on the radio while his tank burns and you can't save him. War is the smell of diesel fuel mixed with blood. War is making decisions in 3 seconds that you'll regret for 30 years. This training exists to keep you alive when those moments come. Pay attention. Ask questions. Take this seriously because the enemy will. The young soldier stared at him with wide eyes. Good. Fear was healthy. Fear kept you sharp. By 1100 hours, Brennan was back in his office, filling out training reports and trying not to think about retirement. The walls were covered with plaques and photographs. Desert Storm 1991, Iraq 2003 and 2004, Afghanistan 2007. 35 years of service compressed into frames and certificates. On his desk sat the only personal item he kept in the office, a set of dog tags, not his own. These belonged to First Lieutenant Daniel Morrison, Danny, the kid who had grown up 3 houses down from Brennan in Pittsburgh, the kid who had joined the Army on the same day, the kid who had died because Brennan wanted to be a hero. The phone rang. Internal line on. Captain Brennan. Sir, this is Sergeant Adams at the gate. You have a visitor, General Hartwell from Pentagon. He says it's urgent. Brennan frowned. General Marcus Hartwell. They had served together in Desert Storm. Good man, good friend. But Marcus didn't make social calls to Fort Benning. Send him to my office. 20 minutes later, General Marcus Hartwell walked through the door in service dress uniform with enough ribbons to open a craft store. At 64, he was 2 stars and one of the senior armor officers in the United States Army. His hair was white, his face was weathered, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Jim, Hartwell said, extending his hand. Marcus, Brennan shook it. You're a long way from Washington. What brings you to Georgia? You do. Brennan gestured to a chair. Both men sat. Hartwell didn't waste time on small talk. How much do you know about the situation in Taiwan? I read the briefings. China's been increasing military pressure. Flights through the air defense identification zone, naval exercises, the usual saber rattling. It's not saber rattling anymore, Jim. It's preparation. National intelligence estimates the People's Liberation Army will attempt an invasion of Taiwan within 14 to 18 months. Brennan leaned back in his chair. That's a bold move. Taiwan has decent defenses. Japan and South Korea won't be happy. And we have the 7th Fleet. All true, but China has been building to this for 20 years. They've got the ships, they've got the troops, and they've got 6,000 tanks to our 0 in theater. Hartwell paused. Taiwan just took delivery of 38 M1A2T Abrams tanks, latest model, upgraded armor packages, trophy active protection systems, the most advanced tanks we export. Good for Taiwan. There's a problem. They don't have tank commanders who know how to use them in actual combat. They've got crews who trained on older systems. They've got officers who read the manuals, but they don't have anyone who's been in a peer-level tank battle. We do. Brennan saw where this was going. Marcus? Hartwell opened a briefcase and pulled out a manila folder. He placed it on the desk and opened it. Inside was a photograph. A Chinese officer in People's Liberation Army uniform, standing in front of a Type 99A main battle tank. The man was about 60, with iron gray hair and the bearing of a career soldier. Do you recognize him? Brennan picked up the photograph. Something about the face was familiar. The eyes, the way he stood. Should I? February 27, 1991. Highway of Death. Your unit destroyed 11 Iraqi tanks in 40 minutes. One of those tank crews surrendered. Do you remember? Brennan closed his eyes. Yes, he remembered. After Danny died. After the screaming stopped. After Brennan's crew had destroyed every Iraqi tank they could find in a rage-fueled rampage. One crew had climbed out with their hands up. Brennan had let them surrender instead of killing them. There was a 5th man, Hartwell said. Not Iraqi. Chinese. A military observer named Zhang Wei. He was there training the Iraqi tank corps before the war. He watched you destroy his students. He studied your tactics. And he's been thinking about that day for 34 years. Brennan looked at the photograph again. Colonel Zhang Wei. Now he saw it. The same eyes. Older. Harder. but the same man who had stood with his hands raised while Brennan's tank kept its gun trained on him. Zhang is now the commander of the 72nd Heavy Combined Arms Brigade, People's Liberation Army, 96 Type 99A tanks, the best China has. And according to our intelligence, his brigade is the spearhead unit for the Taiwan invasion. He's been training his crews specifically for a straight crossing operation. He knows armor warfare. He knows combined arms. And Jim, he knows you. He studied every battle you fought, every tactic you used. He's prepared for you. I'm not going to Taiwan, Marcus. I'm too old. I'm 6 months from retirement. Find someone younger. Hartwell leaned forward. We're not sending advisors, Jim. We're forming a combat unit. Iron Company, multinational volunteers, American, Taiwanese, Japanese, South Korean, 44 Abrams tanks, legal status as private military contractors under Taiwanese command. But let's be honest about what this is. It's a tripwire. It's a statement. It's a way to put American boots on the ground without officially putting American boots on the ground. You want me to command a mercenary company. I want you to command the best tank company ever assembled. Top volunteers from 4 nations, the newest equipment, full support. And yes, if China invades, you'll fight. That's the deal. But here's the thing, Jim. If you train those crews right, maybe they won't have to. Maybe the invasion never happens. Maybe just knowing you're there is enough deterrence. Brennan stood, walked to the window. Outside, he could see young soldiers running drills on a tank. Learning, training, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. I can't do it, Marcus. I'm done. I gave 35 years. I lost my wife. I lost my best friend. I don't have anything left to give. Hartwell stood as well. I understand. I do. But I need to tell you one more thing before I go. He pulled another document from the briefcase. This one had red classification markings. This is the current deployment roster for the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group. 7th Fleet, they're the primary responder if China moves on Taiwan. He placed the document on the desk. Look at page 7. Brennan picked it up, scanned the names, and felt his heart stop. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Brennan, Combat Systems Officer, USS Ronald Reagan, his son. Thomas is already in this, Jim. He's already on station. If China invades, his ship is going to war whether you're there or not. But if you're there training those tank crews, maybe you make the invasion too costly. Maybe you stop it before it starts. Maybe your son never has to fire a shot. Brennan stared at the document. Thomas, his boy, 34 years old now, naval officer, career man, following in his father's footsteps. He didn't tell me he was deployed, Brennan said quietly. He probably didn't want to worry you. Brennan set the document down, looked at Danny's dog tags on his desk, looked at Margaret's photograph, looked at his own reflection in the window glass. An old man, a tired man, a man who had already given everything and somehow was being asked to give more. How long do I have to decide? 24 hours. We need to move fast. Time is not on our side. After Hartwell left, Brennan sat alone in his office for 2 hours. He didn't move, didn't speak, just sat and thought about choices and consequences and ghosts that never rest. At 1800 hours, he made a phone call. It took 3 transfers and 15 minutes of holds, but eventually a familiar voice came on the line. Dad? Tom, you got a minute? Of course. What's wrong? You sound... I just found out you're on the Reagan, 7th Fleet, Taiwan Station. Silence on the other end. Then, Dad, I was going to tell you. When? I don't know. When it felt right, I didn't want you to worry. Tom, if China moves on Taiwan, you're in the shooting gallery. I know, Dad. It's my job. Same as it was yours. Brennan closed his eyes. I got an offer today. Training contract in Taiwan. Tank crews. It's complicated, but if I take it, I'd be there on the island. If the war comes, then you have to take it. Tom, Dad, listen to me. You spent my whole childhood preparing for wars, training soldiers. You missed birthdays. You missed school plays. You missed Mom's last 6 months because you were deployed. And you know what? I never blamed you because I understood. You were trying to prevent wars. You were trying to keep people safe. This is the same thing. If you can train those crews right, maybe the war doesn't happen. Maybe my ship stays in port. Maybe nobody dies. Or maybe I'm just an old man who can't let go. You're not old, Dad. You're experienced. There's a difference. And those kids in Taiwan, they need someone who's actually been in a tank battle. Someone who knows what it's really like. That's you. Brennan opened his eyes, looked at Danny's dog tags again. I got Danny killed, Tom. Did I ever tell you that? Desert Storm. I gave an order. He followed it. He died. I've been carrying that for 34 years. Dad, that wasn't your fault. That's war. People die. It's horrible and unfair, and it's not your fault. I was the commander. It was my decision. And you've spent 34 years trying to make up for it by keeping other people alive. Dad, you're one of the best armor officers the Army ever produced. Everyone says so. You've trained thousands of soldiers. How many of them came home because you taught them the right way? How many families still have their sons and daughters because you were thorough and demanding and wouldn't accept anything less than perfect? Brennan felt something loosen in his chest. A knot he'd been carrying for so long, he'd forgotten it was there. You really think I should do this? I think Mom would want you to. She always said you were the bravest man she knew, not because you didn't feel fear, but because you did it anyway. Go to Taiwan, Dad, train those crews, finish your service. And maybe, just maybe, my ship never has to fire a shot. Do it for Mom, do it for Danny, do it for all the kids who need someone to teach them how to survive. After the call ended, Brennan sat in the darkness of his office. Outside, the sun had set. The base was quiet. In 12 hours, he would have to give Hartwell an answer. He picked up Danny's dog tags, held them in his palm. The metal was warm from years of sitting in the Georgia heat. What do you think, Danny? He whispered. One more mission? Think I've got one more in me? The dog tags didn't answer, but in his mind, he could hear Danny's voice from 34 years ago, young, eager, alive. Hell yeah, Captain. Let's go show these kids how it's done. Brennan smiled for the first time in months. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a notepad, started writing a list, equipment he'd need, people he'd want to bring, training protocols, timeline. By midnight, he had filled 6 pages. At 0700 the next morning, he called Hartwell. I'm in, but I have conditions. Name them. I choose my own operations officer. I choose my own logistics chief. I get final say on training protocols. And Marcus, if this goes south, if the shooting starts, you evacuate my son first. Before me. Before the mission. Before anything else. That's the deal. Done. Welcome to Iron Company, Colonel. I'm not a colonel. You are now. Taiwan is giving you an honorary commission. Lieutenant Colonel, Republic of China Army. Congratulations. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? Probably, but you'll regret not doing it more. I'll have your movement orders by tomorrow. You leave in 72 hours. Brennan hung up, looked around his office. 35 years of history on these walls. And now he was starting a new chapter. He walked down the hall to the office of Sergeant Major Miguel Torres. Torres was 52, built like a fire hydrant, and had served as Brennan's operations sergeant in Iraq. They'd been through 3 deployments together, saved each other's lives twice. Torres was filling out requisition forms and looked up when Brennan knocked. Hey, Captain, what's up? How do you feel about Taiwan? Torres set down his pen. The island or the concept? The island. Specifically, spending the next 18 months there training tank crews to fight China. Torres didn't even hesitate. When do we leave? 72 hours. I'll need 48 to get my affairs in order. My ex-wife is going to be thrilled I'm leaving the country. Means she can't yell at me in person. We're going as contractors. Legal gray area. If the shooting starts, we're in it. Wouldn't be the first time. Torres stood, extended his hand. You and me, Captain. One more ride. Brennan shook his hand. One more ride. The next 2 days were a blur of paperwork, medical examinations, equipment requisitions, and phone calls. Brennan assembled his team carefully. People he trusted, people who had been in combat, people who understood that training wasn't about paperwork. It was about keeping soldiers alive. Captain Jennifer Walsh, 41 years old, logistics officer, lost her husband in Fallujah in 2005. She knew the cost of war and took her job with religious seriousness. When Brennan called her, she said yes before he finished explaining. Master Sergeant Robert Chen, 47 years old, Taiwanese American, born in Taipei, emigrated to California at age 10, joined the Army at 18. He'd given up a six-figure job at a tech company to volunteer for this mission. My parents left Taiwan because they were afraid, he told Brennan. I'm going back because I'm not. 14 other volunteers, tank commanders, gunners, drivers, loaders, all veterans, all experienced, all willing to risk everything for a country that wasn't technically theirs. On the morning of departure, Brennan stood in his empty house in Georgia. The movers had taken the furniture. The walls were bare. The only thing left was a suitcase with his uniforms and personal items. He took one last walk through the rooms, the bedroom where Margaret had died, the kitchen where they'd had coffee every morning for 20 years, the living room where Thomas had learned to walk. In the front hallway, he stopped at a photograph. His wedding day, Margaret in a white dress, Brennan in his dress blues, both of them young and smiling and unaware of what the future held. I'm going, Maggie, he said to the photograph. One more mission. I'll try to make you proud. He picked up the photograph, put it in his suitcase, and walked out the door. The flight to Taiwan took 18 hours with stops in California and Tokyo. Brennan slept in fits and starts, the drone of jet engines mixing with memories. Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, faces of soldiers he'd commanded. Some who came home, some who didn't. When the plane finally descended toward Taiwan Taoyuan International Airport, Brennan looked out the window. Below, the island stretched green and mountainous. Cities clustered along the coasts, farms in the interior, 23 million people. An island democracy 90 miles from a communist superpower. And somewhere out there across the Taiwan Strait, Colonel Zhang Wei was preparing his tank brigade for invasion. The game was about to begin. At the airport, they were met by a Taiwanese military liaison, Major Lin Zhaoming, 38 years old, career armor officer, 18 years in tanks. He saluted sharply when Brennan and his team came through customs. Lieutenant Colonel Brennan, welcome to Taiwan. I am Major Lin. I will be your deputy commander for Iron Company. Please come with me. We have much to discuss. They were driven in a convoy of military vehicles to Hsinchu, a city in northern Taiwan. From there, up into the mountains to a military base that didn't appear on any public maps. High walls, guard towers, razor wire. Inside the compound, 44 M1A2T Abrams tanks sat in neat rows. The newest model, the most advanced. Brennan walked along the line, running his hand over the composite armor. These machines represented the cutting edge of armored warfare, but they were useless without trained crews. Beautiful, aren't they? Major Lin said, coming to stand beside him. They're tools, Brennan replied. Expensive tools. The question is whether we have time to teach people how to use them. We have 18 months. We have less than that. Training takes time. Integration takes time. If China invades in 18 months, we need to be ready in 12. That gives us a buffer. That gives us time to adapt to problems. And there will be problems. Lin nodded slowly. You have done this before. I've trained the tank crews for 35 years. I've learned that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. The key is planning for it. Then I am glad you are here, sir. That night, Brennan lay in his bunk in the officers' quarters and stared at the ceiling. Jet lag made sleep impossible. His body thought it was noon. His mind was racing with training schedules and equipment lists and tactical scenarios. He thought about Thomas on the Reagan, somewhere out in the Pacific, waiting, watching. He thought about Danny, dead 34 years but still fresh in memory. He thought about Margaret, buried in Arlington National Cemetery. He'd promised her he was done with war, and here he was, preparing for the biggest battle of his life. At 0600 local time, he got up, dressed in the Taiwanese military uniform they'd provided, and walked to the assembly area. The volunteer crews were already there. 200 men and women from 4 countries, American, Taiwanese, Japanese, South Korean, all in Taiwanese uniforms, all theoretically contractors, all really soldiers preparing for war. Brennan stood on a platform so everyone could see him. Torres and Walsh stood to his right, Lin and Chen to his left. The morning sun was just breaking over the mountains. "My name is Lieutenant Colonel James Brennan," he said, his voice carrying across the silent assembly. "For the next 12 months, I'm your commanding officer. Some of you are here because you believe in defending democracy. Some are here for adventure. Some are here because you have nowhere else to go. I don't care about your reasons. I care about your performance." He paused, looking at faces, young and old, experienced and green, and all watching him. The M1A2T Abrams is the most advanced tank in the world. It can kill enemy armor from 3 kilometers away. It can survive hits that would destroy lesser vehicles. It can operate in any weather, any terrain, any conditions. But it cannot operate without a trained crew. And training takes time we don't have. Therefore, we are going to compress 12 months of training into 8 months. We are going to work longer hours than you've ever worked. We are going to drill harder than you've ever drilled. We are going to push you beyond what you think is possible. Some of you will quit. Some of you will fail. Some of you will decide this isn't for you. That's fine. Better to learn your limits here than in combat. But for those of you who stay, for those of you who push through, I will teach you everything I know. I will teach you how to fight, how to survive, how to win. And if the day comes when we face Chinese tanks across a battlefield, you will be ready. Not because I said so, but because you earned it. Welcome to Iron Company. Let's get to work. The training began immediately. Day 1. Basic orientation. How to enter and exit the tank. How to operate the radios. How to perform before operation maintenance checks. The fundamentals. It was chaos. The American crews had experience but were used to different procedures. The Taiwanese crews knew the procedures but lacked combat experience. The Japanese and Korean crews were excellent technically but had language barriers. Everyone had their own way of doing things. Everyone thought their way was right. By 1,400 hours on day 1, Brennan had already identified the problems. Lack of standardization, lack of communication, lack of cohesion. These weren't crews. They were individuals wearing the same uniform. On day 3, they moved to live fire exercises, simple drills, drive to a firing point, acquire target, engage, basic fundamentals. Lieutenant Zhang Wei, a 26-year-old Taiwanese tank commander, was leading Crew 7. He'd been top of his class in training, perfect scores on simulators. On paper, he was an ideal tank commander. In reality, he was a disaster. "Crew 7, move to firing point Alpha," Brennan ordered over the radio. Zhang Wei's tank lurched forward. Too fast. The driver overcorrected. The tank swerved, knocked over a range marker, and accelerated up a steep incline at dangerous speed. "Crew 7, slow down," Brennan barked. The tank kept accelerating. 40 miles per hour up a 30-degree slope. The nose came up. For a moment, Brennan thought it would flip backward. "Brake! Brake now!" The tank skidded, spun sideways, stopped 3 feet from the edge of a drop-off. If it had gone over, the crew would have died. Brennan walked to the tank. Chen climbed out, face pale, hands shaking. "Sir, I'm sorry, you almost killed your crew." "I know, I'm sorry, I panicked." Brennan looked at the young man, saw himself at 25, eager, confident, completely unprepared for reality. "This is a $10 million machine, Lieutenant. Not a video game, not a simulator. When you make a mistake here, people die. Do you understand that?" "Yes, sir. And don't make that mistake again." By the end of week 1, Brennan had already dismissed 3 crews. They couldn't handle the pressure, couldn't handle the pace, couldn't handle the reality that this wasn't training for the sake of training. This was preparation for war. That weekend, Brennan sat in his quarters and wrote in a notebook. Training observations, problems to solve, crew evaluations. Torres knocked on the door. "Come in." Torres entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Brennan and sat down. "This is harder than I thought," Torres said. "It always is. Some of these kids, Jim, they're not ready. They're not going to be ready." "I know. So what do we do?" Brennan sipped his coffee, thought about Danny, about Margaret, about Thomas on the Reagan. "We keep training, we keep pushing, and we pray that we have enough time." Outside, night had fallen over the mountains of Taiwan. Somewhere across the strait, Zhang Wei was training his own crews, preparing his own invasion. The clock was ticking. An Iron Company had 472 days left. Week 2 began with Hell Week. Brennan announced it at morning formation. The entire company assembled in the gray dawn light, breath visible in the mountain cold. 200 faces looked up at him from the parade ground, some eager, some afraid, all uncertain about what was coming. "Starting now," Brennan said, his voice cutting through the morning air. "You have 7 days. No sleep, continuous operations. You will drill, you will train, you will maintain your vehicles, and you will compete against each other. At the end of 7 days, the bottom 10 crews will be removed from Iron Company. This is your crucible. This is where we separate warriors from tourists." A murmur ran through the formation. Torres stepped forward. "You think this is harsh?" Torres bellowed. "Let me tell you what's harsh. Harsh is facing 100 Chinese tanks with crews that aren't ready. Harsh is watching your friends burn because they couldn't load shells fast enough. Harsh is explaining to someone's mother why her son died because his commander wasn't properly trained. This is mercy. We're showing you your limits now while there's still time to fix them." The drills began immediately. Hour 1. Basic movement drills. 20 tanks moving in formation across rough terrain. Navigate obstacles. Maintain spacing. Communicate constantly. Simple tasks made complex by exhaustion and stress. Crew 12, commanded by Taiwanese Lieutenant Mike Xu, performed flawlessly. Xu was 33, a former mechanic who had worked his way up through the ranks. His crew moved like a single organism. Driver anticipated commands. Gunner tracked targets smoothly. Loader worked with mechanical precision. They were natural. Crew 19, commanded by Lieutenant James Huang, struggled. Huang was 28, Stanford dropout, returned to Taiwan to serve. Brilliant mind, idealistic heart. But in the tank commander's position, he froze. His commands came late. His crew compensated as best they could, but the tank moved erratically, fell behind formation, nearly collided with Crew 23. By hour 12, exhaustion was setting in. Crews that had started strong began making mistakes. Simple tasks became difficult. Communication broke down. Tempers flared. Captain Sarah Wu commanded Crew 18, 31 years old, MIT graduate in mechanical engineering, first female tank commander in Taiwanese military history. She had fought for every inch of respect, earned it through perfect scores and relentless work ethic. Her crew was tight, professional, and currently outperforming most of the male crews. But that didn't stop the comments. During a refueling break, Brennan overheard conversation from a group of Taiwanese crewmen. "A woman commander," one said in Mandarin, not realizing Robert Chen was nearby translating quietly for Brennan. "This is a joke. When the real fighting starts, she'll panic. She'll cry and want to go home," another added. "Women don't belong in tanks." Chen started to move forward, but Brennan held up a hand. "Wait." Sarah Wu stepped into the circle of men. Her voice was calm, level, controlled. "My crew has the second highest gunnery scores in the company. We completed the last movement drill 4 minutes faster than your crew. And if you'd like to discuss this further, I'm happy to challenge your crew to any drill of your choosing. Let the results speak." The men fell silent. Sarah walked away. Brennan made a note. She had steel in her spine. Good. Hour 24. First full day without sleep. This was where the mind started playing tricks. Brennan had designed the schedule specifically to push crews past the point of comfort into the realm where mistakes happen. Live fire exercise. Each crew had to engage multiple targets at varying ranges, under time pressure. With simulated combat stress, via smoke, grenades, and artillery simulators, creating noise and chaos. American Crew 3, led by Captain Mike Reynolds, was executing the drill. Reynolds was 39, 2 tours Iraq, 1 Afghanistan. Veteran commander, steady hands, until he wasn't. Target appeared at 1,800 meters, friendly marker visible through thermal sight. Reynolds called it as hostile. His gunner questioned it. Reynolds overrode, ordered the shot. In a real combat scenario, they would have just killed friendlies. Brennan's voice came over the radio like a whip crack. "Cease fire. Crew 3, you are disqualified from this drill. Exit the vehicle, now." Reynolds climbed out, face red with embarrassment and anger. Captain Brennan, sir, You just killed 4 friendly soldiers, Captain. In real combat, you'd face court-martial. Here, you get removed from the exercise and retrained on target identification. Your crew will continue without you for the next 6 hours. Maybe that will help you remember to verify targets before shooting. Reynolds wanted to argue. The look in Brennan's eyes stopped him. Hour 48, 2 days without sleep, hallucinations starting. Several crews reported seeing things that weren't there. One driver swore he saw civilians on the range and stopped his tank. There were no civilians, just exhaustion and stress breaking down perception. Crew 7, still commanded by Zhang Wei, was performing maintenance. Change a tank track. Essential skill. In combat, a thrown track meant a mobility kill. A crew that couldn't repair it quickly was a dead crew. Standard time for track replacement, 2 hours. Combat time goal, 45 minutes. Chen's crew was at the 90-minute mark and still struggling. The work required coordination, physical strength, and mental clarity. They had none of the above. Chen himself was nearly in tears. I can't do this. I can't. We're going to fail. His loader, a young corporal named Danny Huang, kept working despite his commander's breakdown. Sir, we can do this. Focus. Just focus on the next bolt. But Chen was gone mentally. He sat down on the ground, put his head in his hands. Brennan walked over, stood above him. Lieutenant Chen. Sir, I want to quit. I'm not cut out for this. I'm sorry. Then quit. Right now. Walk away. I'll have your papers processed by tomorrow. Chen looked up. Really? Really? But understand what you're choosing. You're choosing to go home and live with the knowledge that when your country needed you, you quit. You're choosing to watch other people fight your war. You're choosing comfort over duty. If that's what you want, I respect it. Go. Chen stared at him. Brennan's face was granite, no judgment, no anger, just statement of fact. Danny Huang spoke up. Sir, with respect, Lieutenant Chen is a good commander. He's just exhausted. We all are. But we're not quitting. We're going to finish this track replacement. All of us, including him. The rest of the crew nodded. Chen looked at them. His crew. His responsibility. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Then get up, Danny said, and help us finish. Chen stood, wiped his eyes, picked up a wrench. The crew completed the track replacement in 43 minutes. Under time. Hour 72. 3 days without sleep. Multiple crews had quit. American crew 8. Taiwanese crews 14 and 21. Japanese crew 37. They simply couldn't continue. Bodies shut down. Minds refused to function. They were done. The remaining crews looked like zombies, moving on instinct and stubbornness alone. Night operations drill. Zero visibility except thermal sights. Navigate through rough terrain. Engage targets. Communicate despite electronic warfare simulation jamming radios. Sarah Wu's crew. 18 excelled. Her gunner, Sergeant Lee, had video game reflexes and an uncanny ability to spot targets through thermal imagery. In 30 minutes, they identified and engaged 19 out of 20 targets. Best score in the company. Some of the male crews who had mocked her earlier were now silent. Results don't lie. Hour 96, 4 days without sleep. Crew 23, commanded by South Korean Captain Park Jin-woo, drove their tank into a ditch. Simple navigation error. Exhaustion had destroyed depth perception. The tank was stuck, would require recovery vehicle. Park's crew was removed from Hell Week. Failure. Hour 120. 5 days. Several crews were experiencing micro-sleeps while operating, falling asleep for seconds at a time. Incredibly dangerous in a 68-ton vehicle moving at speed. Brennan called mandatory 4-hour rest period. Not because he wanted to, but because continuing without it would result in actual deaths. This wasn't training to kill soldiers. It was training to make them harder to kill. During the rest period, Brennan sat with Torres and Walsh in the command tent. Maps spread across a table. Crew performance evaluations. We're going to lose more, Walsh said quietly. Another 2, maybe 3 days of this, and we'll have 15 to 20 crews drop. I know, Brennan said. Is it worth it? Torres asked. Pushing this hard. Brennan looked at the map, at the Taiwan Strait, at the distance between the island and mainland China. 90 miles of water, and on the other side, Zhang Wei preparing his invasion force. If we don't push them to breaking now, they'll break when it matters. Better to find out who can't handle it here than in combat. We're not building a parade ground unit. We're building a force that can hold against numerical superiority. That requires people who don't break. Hour 144, 6 days. The final exercise, 72-hour field operation. Each crew given a sector. Orders to patrol, conduct reconnaissance, engage simulated enemy forces, and return. Complete mission or fail Hell Week. 28 crews remain. 16 had quit or been removed. Lieutenant James Huang's crew, 19 was operating in mountainous terrain. Huang had struggled throughout Hell Week, made mistakes, fallen behind, but he hadn't quit. Now he faced the final test. His crew was exhausted. 6 days of continuous operations, maybe 8 hours of sleep total, bodies running on adrenaline and willpower alone. Target appeared at 2,000 meters, Type 9A silhouette. Huang needed to identify, range, and engage. He froze. The seconds ticked by. His gunner was ready. His loader was ready. But Huang couldn't give the command. Fear paralyzed him. What if he missed? What if he identified the target wrong? What if he failed again? Sir, his gunner said quietly, we need to engage. I know, Over the radio, Brennan's voice, calm, steady. Crew 19, report status. Huang's hand shook on the radio transmit button. Iron 6, this is 19. I have eyes on target, but, sir, I'm afraid I'll miss. Then miss. Take the shot and miss, but take the shot. Fear is normal, Lieutenant. Every tanker is afraid. The difference between a warrior and a corpse is that the warrior acts despite the fear. You've made it 6 days. Don't fail now because you're overthinking. Trust your training, trust your crew, trust yourself. Take the shot. Huang closed his eyes, breathed, opened them. Gunner, sabot, tank. Identified. Fire. The 120mm gun roared. The sabot round crossed 2,000 meters in less than 2 seconds. Direct hit. Target destroyed. Huang felt something release in his chest. Not confidence. Not yet. But the beginning of it. Good shot, 19, Brennan said over the radio. Continue mission. Hour 168. 7 days, Hell Week was over. The 28 remaining crews assembled in the morning light. They looked like they had been through a war. Filthy, exhausted. Some had lost 10 pounds. All had dark circles under their eyes. But they were still standing. Brennan walked in front of the formation. Torres and Walsh flanked him. Congratulations, Brennan said. You survived. That makes you better than the crews who quit. But it doesn't make you warriors. Not yet. Hell Week was about finding your limits. The next phase is about pushing beyond them. You've proven you can endure. Now we'll see if you can excel. He paused, looked at each face. 10 crews didn't make it. They chose comfort over duty. You chose duty. Remember that choice because you'll have to make it again. And again, and again, until this becomes who you are, not what you do. You have 48 hours of stand down. Rest, recover, clean your equipment. When you return, we begin advanced training. Dismissed. The crews dispersed. Most headed immediately to barracks to sleep. Some stayed to maintain equipment first. The dedicated ones. The ones Brennan would build his corps around. Sarah Wu approached him. Her uniform was stained with oil and dirt. Her face was drawn with exhaustion, but her eyes were clear. Sir, thank you. For what, Captain? For not making excuses for me. Some of the male crews expected you to go easier on me because I'm a woman. You didn't. You held me to the same standard. That's all I wanted. Captain Wu, I don't care about your gender. I care about your performance. Your crew is second best in this company. That earns respect, not your chromosomes. Second best, sir? Crew 12, Mike Shu's team. They're marginally better, but you're close. Keep pushing. She smiled. First time Brennan had seen her smile. I'll catch them, sir. I believe you. That night, Brennan couldn't sleep. Not from lack of rest, but from the weight of what was coming. Month 3 approaching. Training would intensify. Advanced gunnery, combined arms operations, Urban warfare. Each phase more complex than the last. He sat on his bunk and pulled out a notebook. Started writing a letter. Thomas, if you're reading this, I didn't make it. I want you to know this wasn't your fault. Whatever happened, I chose to be here. I chose this mission, and I choose it again. War is chaos. People die, good people, for reasons that don't make sense. Your mother understood that. She married me anyway, loved me anyway. I hope you find someone who loves you the same way. He paused, pen hovering over paper. I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. Desert Storm, Danny Morrison. I've spent 34 years blaming myself for his death, carrying that guilt, using it as motivation to keep other soldiers alive. But the truth is simpler and harder. I made a tactical decision with the information I had. It was a reasonable decision. It just had a terrible outcome. That's war. That's command. You make the best choice you can, and sometimes people still die. I'm telling you this because you're a combat systems officer on a carrier. If this situation escalates, you'll make life and death decisions. You'll order weapons released. You'll direct fires. And maybe, if God is cruel, some of those decisions will have outcomes you didn't intend. When that happens, remember this: you're not responsible for chaos. You're only responsible for doing your best with what you know. The rest is fate. I love you, son. Make me proud. Make your mother proud. And live a life worth living. That's all anyone can do. He signed it, sealed it in an envelope, wrote on the outside, to be delivered to LCDR Thomas Brennan only in the event of my death. He gave the envelope to Jennifer Walsh the next morning. You're being morbid, she said. I'm being practical. If something happens to me, he needs to know it wasn't his fault. Nothing's going to happen to you, Jim. We're just training. For now. Month 3 began with advanced gunnery, engaging targets at maximum range, moving targets, multiple targets, targets behind cover. Every scenario designed to stress the crew's ability to acquire, track, and destroy enemy armor. The training site was a valley 30 kilometers from base. Target vehicles placed at ranges from 1,000 to 3,500 meters. Each crew given 30 minutes to engage as many targets as possible. Crew 12, Mike Shu's team, went first. Shu was a natural, aggressive but controlled. He positioned his tank on high ground with good line of sight across the valley. His gunner worked methodically through targets. 15 targets engaged, 14 hits, 1 miss at extreme range. Excellent performance. Crew 18, Sarah Wu, went second. Wu was more cautious. She spent extra time on reconnaissance, identifying all targets before engaging. Slower start, but higher accuracy. 17 targets engaged, 17 hits. Perfect score. Best in company. After the drill, Shu approached Wu. Nice shooting, Captain. Thank you, Lieutenant. Your crew is excellent as well. But not as good as yours, he grinned. I can admit when I'm beaten. Today, tomorrow I might miss. Then I'll enjoy today. They shook hands. Respect earned, competition acknowledged. This was what Brennan wanted. Crews pushing each other to excel. Lieutenant James Huang's crew 19 struggled with gunnery. Huang was still fighting his own fear. His commands came hesitantly. His gunner was skilled but couldn't perform when the commander second-guessed every decision. 10 targets engaged, 6 hits, below standard. After the drill, Brennan called Huang to his office. Lieutenant, we need to talk about your performance. Sir, I know, I'm trying, I really am. Trying isn't enough. Your crew deserves a commander who can lead them. Your gunner is one of the best in the company, but he can't hit targets if you won't let him shoot. I'm afraid of making mistakes, sir. Everyone is afraid of making mistakes, but you know what's worse than making a mistake? Making no decision at all. In combat, hesitation kills. A wrong decision can be corrected. No decision is just death waiting to happen. How do I stop being afraid? Brennan leaned back in his chair, thought about Danny, about 34 years of carrying guilt. You don't stop being afraid. You learn to act despite the fear. Let me tell you a story. He told Huang about Desert Storm, about Danny, about the decision that had haunted him for 3 decades. Huang listened in silence. I thought command meant never making mistakes, Brennan said. I thought if I was just smart enough, careful enough, I could keep everyone alive. But that's not how war works. People die. Good people. People you care about. And sometimes it's because of decisions you made. What I learned eventually is that command isn't about being perfect. It's about making the best decision you can with the information you have and then living with the outcome. Your gunner is waiting for you to lead. Your crew is waiting for you to be decisive. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be committed. Huang wiped his eyes. What if I fail them? Then you fail them, and you learn, and you do better next time. But failing because you tried is honorable. Failing because you were too afraid to try is just cowardice. I don't want to be a coward. Then stop acting like one. It was harsh, but it was necessary. Huang needed to hear it. That evening, during personal time, something happened that would change everything. The crews had gathered in the recreation building. Americans, Taiwanese, Japanese, Koreans, drinking coffee, playing cards, trying to relax. Still somewhat segregated by nationality and language despite training together. Someone mentioned Desert Storm, asked if anyone had served in it. Several of the older American volunteers had. Captain Brennan was there, Torres said. He doesn't talk about it much. Why not? One of the younger Taiwanese soldiers asked. Torres hesitated. This wasn't his story to tell, but maybe it needed to be told. He lost his best friend there, tank commander named Danny Morrison. They grew up together, joined together. Danny died in his tank. Captain Brennan heard him die over the radio. The room fell silent. That's why he's so hard on us, Torres continued. He's not trying to break you. He's trying to keep you alive. Every drill, every exercise, every time he yells at someone for making a mistake, he's remembering Danny. He's making sure what happened to Danny doesn't happen to any of you. Zhang Wei, the young lieutenant who had nearly quit during Hell Week, spoke up. He never told us that. He wouldn't. It's not about him. It's about you. About making sure you're ready. Sarah Wu said quietly, my father was a tanker. Died during training exercise when I was 10. Vehicle rolled over, crushed the crew. I became a tank commander because of him. Because I wanted to understand why he died doing something so dangerous. Now I understand. He was trying to be ready for war so his soldiers would survive it. Other stories emerged. Mike Shu's older brother had died during mandatory military service. Heart attack during a training march. Mike had been angry at the military for years. Blamed them. Eventually realized his brother hadn't died because the training was too hard. He died because he had an undiagnosed heart condition. The training just revealed it. Better to die in training than in combat, Shu said. At least in training, the rest of the unit learns from your death. In combat, you just die. James Huang listened to all of this. The stories, the losses, the reasons people were here. He thought about his own reason. He'd left Stanford because he felt disconnected from Taiwan, felt like he was living a comfortable life while his country faced existential threat. Came back to serve. But he'd been treating it like another academic challenge, something to study and master intellectually. These people understood something he didn't. This wasn't an intellectual exercise. This was life and death. Real death. Danny Morrison screaming on the radio death. Father crushed under a tank death. Brother dying during training death. That night, Huang went to Brennan's quarters, knocked on the door. Come in. Huang entered. Brennan was at his desk reviewing training schedules. Lieutenant, what can I do for you? Sir, I wanted to apologize for my performance, for my hesitation. I've been treating this like school. Like if I just study hard enough, I'll figure it out. But that's not what this is. No, it's not. I want to do better, sir. I want to be the commander my crew deserves. Will you help me? Brennan studied the young man, saw genuine determination, saw someone who had finally understood what this was really about. Report to the range at 0500 tomorrow. Bring your gunner. We'll work on decision-making drills. Every day until you stop hesitating. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be harder than anything you've done so far. Month 5, combined arms training, tanks working with infantry, artillery, and air support. The complexity increased exponentially. Scenario, defend a beach against amphibious assault, coordinate with infantry to control key terrain, call artillery on landing zones, direct airstrikes on enemy armor. Iron Company's 28 tanks spread across a 20-kilometer front, communication nets tested, logistics strained, command and control challenged. It was chaos. Beautiful, organized chaos. American Crew 5 and Taiwanese Crew 23 developed a hand signal system as backup communication. When radios were jammed by electronic warfare simulation, they used flags and prearranged signals. Crude but effective. Japanese Crew 41 struggled with communication. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka spoke excellent English, but his crew didn't. They were isolated by language despite being integrated by uniform. Brennan assigned Robert Chen to work specifically with Japanese and Korean crews, teaching them critical English phrases, teaching American crews critical Japanese and Korean phrases, building linguistic bridges. You don't need to be fluent, Chen told them. You just need to communicate essentials. Contact, distance, direction, ammunition, damage. Master 20 words and you can fight together. Urban warfare training began month 6. Tanks in city environment, close quarters, infantry threats, civilian considerations, mock-up city built-in training area. Narrow streets, buildings with upper floors, ambush positions everywhere. This was where tanks were most vulnerable. In cities, infantry with anti-tank weapons could get close, could hit vulnerable points. Rear armor, engine deck, track assemblies. Crew 12, Mike Shu's team, excelled in urban warfare. Shu's background as mechanic gave him intuitive understanding of the tank's vulnerabilities. He positioned his vehicle to minimize exposure, used buildings for cover, moved in short bounds. Textbook urban armor tactics. Crew 7, Zhang Wei's team, had improved dramatically since Hell Week. Chen was more confident. His crew was cohesive. They moved through the urban environment cautiously but efficiently. Chen had learned, fear was acceptable, paralysis was not. Month 7, night operations, the true test of crew coordination. Tank warfare at night was completely different experience. No visual references except thermal sights. Everything was shades of gray. Hot objects appeared white, cold objects appeared black. The world reduced to temperature signatures. Sarah Wu's gunner, Sergeant Lee, was naturally gifted at reading thermal imagery. Where others saw confusing shapes, he saw targets. His performance at night was even better than during day. It's like a video game, he explained to other gunners. Don't think about what you're seeing. Just look for the patterns. Hot engine signatures, hot gun barrels, human shapes. Train your brain to recognize them instantly. Month 7, day 15. The night everything changed. Maintenance depot. 0200 hours. Guards on duty, but reduced visibility and darkness. Explosion. The sound ripped through the night. Brennan was awake instantly, grabbed his uniform, ran toward the maintenance area. Flames, 6 tanks burning, not catastrophic burns, but significant fires in engine compartments. Fire control systems damaged. Electronics fried. Security rushed to contain the fires. No casualties, but serious equipment damage. By 0400, the fires were out. Assessment began. 6 M1A2T Abrams damaged. Estimated 3 months repair time per vehicle. 16% of Iron Company's combat power destroyed in one attack. Investigation was swift. Security footage showed a figure in Taiwanese uniform entering the maintenance depot at 0145. Placed incendiary devices in 6 tanks. Left at 0203. Explosion at 0255. By 0800, they had identified the saboteur. Sergeant Liu, 48 years old, maintenance supervisor, 12 years of service, trusted member of the base personnel. He was arrested in his quarters. When questioned, he broke immediately. My daughter, they have my daughter in Shanghai. They said they would kill her if I didn't help them. Who's they? The investigator demanded. PLA, Chinese intelligence. They contacted me 6 months ago, threatened her. I had no choice. I had to do what they said. What did they tell you to do? Report training schedules, equipment status, and when ordered, sabotage vehicles to delay readiness. Who was your handler? Liu pulled out a phone, showed a message. The text was in Chinese. Robert Chen translated for Brennan. Tell Captain Brennan I am watching. His tactics have not changed since 1991. When we meet again, he will lose. Signed, Colonel Zhang Wei. Brennan stared at the message. Zhang, the ghost from Desert Storm. The man who had spent 34 years preparing for this moment. He was inside Brennan's head, inside his operation, inside his timeline. What else did you report? Brennan asked Liu directly. Everything. Crew rosters, training progress, equipment modifications, tactical doctrines. Everything. Torres grabbed Brennan's arm. Jim, if Zhang knows our capabilities, he can counter them. We need to change everything. No, Brennan said slowly. We need to finish the mission, adapt our tactics. But we don't change the fundamentals. Zhang knows what I know, but I know what I know about him too. We're both students of the same war. The question is who learned the right lessons? Liu was taken into custody. His daughter was actually safe in Taiwan, not in China. The entire thing had been manipulation. Chinese intelligence had convinced him his daughter was in danger to secure his cooperation. But the damage was done. 6 tanks offline, training schedule disrupted, security compromised. And Zhang Wei had psychological advantage. He knew he was inside Brennan's head. That night, Brennan sat alone in his quarters, stared at the message on Liu's phone. You want to play mind games, Zhang? He whispered. Fine, let's play. He called Torres, Walsh, Chen, and Lin to his office. Emergency meeting. Zhang knows our capabilities, Brennan said. He knows our standard tactics. So we're going to change them. Not completely, but enough. We're going to introduce variations he won't expect. Doctrine modifications that leverage our crew quality over his numerical superiority. What kind of modifications? Lin asked. Deception, mobility, unpredictability. Zhang is preparing for the American tactics he saw in Desert Storm. Overwhelming firepower, direct assault. We're not going to give him that. We're going to fight asymmetrically, make him uncertain, make him hesitate, turn his knowledge against him. That's risky, Walsh said. Changing doctrine this late in training. Riskier than fighting predictably against an enemy who knows exactly what we're going to do? Torres grinned. I like it. Zhang thinks he has you figured out. Time to show him you learned a few things in 34 years, too. Month 9. Training intensified with new tactical modifications, dispersed operations, rapid repositioning, false radio traffic, electronic deception, anything to create uncertainty. The crews adapted quickly. They had been training together for 9 months now. They knew each other, trusted each other. The national differences had faded. They were no longer Americans or Taiwanese or Japanese or Koreans. They were Iron Company. James Huang had transformed. Months of daily extra training with Brennan had broken through his hesitation. He would never be as naturally aggressive as Mike Xu or as technically perfect as Sarah Wu, but he was competent, decisive. His crew functioned smoothly. Good enough. Month 10, full-scale exercise. Defend against simulated invasion. All 28 operational tanks, 6 still in repair from sabotage. 3 days continuous operations. Every skill tested simultaneously. The exercise revealed both strengths and remaining weaknesses. Strengths. Crew cohesion was excellent. Gunnery scores were exceptional. Tactical flexibility was improving. Weaknesses. Logistics still struggled under sustained operations. Maintenance couldn't keep pace with combat tempo. Communications were vulnerable to jamming, but overall, Iron Company was ready. Not perfect, never perfect, but ready. Month 11, the message that changed everything. Brennan received a video call from USS Ronald Reagan. His son Thomas. The call came through on secure military network at 2300 hours local time. Dad, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. What's wrong? Thomas's face on the screen looked drawn, stressed. Reagan Battle Group just received updated rules of engagement. If PLA launches invasion of Taiwan, we're authorized to strike landing forces. That includes armor columns. Dad, if you're forward deployed when we start hitting beaches, close air support can't guarantee blue on blue won't happen. You need to pull your unit back from forward positions. Brennan felt his chest tighten. Pull back. Tom, if I pull back, I abandon Taiwanese crews to the first wave. Dad, if you stay forward, there's a chance my battle group kills you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I might be giving the order that fires on your position. Then don't fire on my position. It's not that simple. We'll be hitting targets at speed with limited coordination windows. If your tanks are in the impact zone, Tom, listen to me. If I pull my unit back from forward positions, what message does that send to these crews that Americans run when things get dangerous? That we'll train them but won't stand beside them when the shooting starts? Dad, I can't be responsible for killing you. You won't be. I'm making this choice. I'm staying forward. I'm doing my job, and you'll do yours. If we both survive, we both survive. If we don't, then we don't. But neither of us is going to compromise our mission because we're afraid. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Mom would tell you you're being stubborn. Your mother married a stubborn man. She knew what she was getting. I hate this, Dad. I hate that we might be in the same battle on opposite sides of the fire control solution. I know, son, I know. But this is what we signed up for. Service, sacrifice, doing the hard things because they need to be done. After the call ended, Brennan sat in darkness, thought about Margaret, thought about Danny, thought about Thomas launching strikes that might kill his own father. War was cruel, but it was especially cruel in how it took people who loved each other and put them in impossible situations. He wrote another letter, updated the one he had given Walsh, added pages, made sure Thomas would understand. Whatever happened, it wasn't his fault. Month 12, final exercise. War game against conventional Taiwanese armored brigade. Iron Company's 28 operational tanks versus 40 older tanks with traditionally trained crews. It was a massacre. Iron Company used the modified tactics. Dispersed, mobile, unpredictable. They hit the opposition from unexpected angles. Repositioned constantly. Used terrain brilliantly. Coordinated fires across distributed positions. Final score, Iron Company 87% target elimination in 12 minutes. 0 simulated casualties. Opposition 60% elimination in 24 minutes. 15% simulated casualties. Even skeptical Taiwanese generals were impressed. Iron Company worked. But Brennan knew this wasn't real combat. The opposition wasn't trying to kill them. Zhang Wei would be. Month 12, day 20. Stand down before expected deployment to forward positions. The training was complete. Now they waited for reality to begin. That night, Brennan called everyone together. All 28 crews, all 140 personnel, Americans, Taiwanese, Japanese, Koreans. Iron Company assembled in full. We've been training for 12 months, Brennan said. You are now the best trained tank company in this theater. Better trained than most active duty units anywhere in the world. You've earned that through sweat and determination and refusing to quit when it got hard. But training and combat are different things. When the shooting starts, everything changes. Plans fall apart. People die. You'll be scared. You'll want to run. That's normal. That's human. The difference between us and the enemy is that we'll fight through the fear. We'll stand when others break. We are Iron Company, and iron doesn't break. Sarah Wu stood. Sir, permission to speak. Granted, Captain. Sir, I think I speak for all of us when I say we're honored to serve under your command. You could be retired right now, living peacefully, but you chose to be here, to teach us, to stand with us. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. Iron Company doesn't break, and we don't abandon each other. The crews erupted in applause. Brennan felt something in his throat. Pride, fear, love for these soldiers who had become more than students. They had become family. Torres approached after the formation dispersed. Hell of a speech she gave. Hell of a soldier she's become. They all have. You did good, Jim. Whatever happens next, you did good. That night, Brennan couldn't sleep. Again. He walked the tank park, ran his hand along the composite armor of the vehicles. These machines would either save lives or become tombs, depended on crew skill, on luck, on factors beyond anyone's control. At 0300, alarm klaxons shattered the night. Brennan ran to command center. Lynn was already there, phone to his ear, face pale. "What is it?" Brennan demanded. Lin hung up, turned to face him. "PLA is moving. 500 aircraft, 240 ships, full invasion force. Operation Sacred Reunion has begun. This is not a drill. The war has started." Brennan felt time slow. This was it. Everything they had trained for. All the preparation, all the fervor, all the anticipation. Now it was real. Get everyone mobilized. "I want all tanks moving to defensive positions within 30 minutes. This is what we trained for. This is why we're here." As crews scrambled to their vehicles, as engines roared to life, as tank commanders checked weapons and ammunition loads, Brennan stood in the command center and thought about his son. Somewhere out in the Pacific on the Reagan, going to the same war. He touched the pocket where he kept Margaret's photograph. "Watch over us, Maggie. Watch over all of us, especially our boy." Outside, 28 M1A2T Abrams tanks of Iron Company rolled toward their defensive positions, the iron wall moving into place, ready to hold or die trying. The real test was about to begin. The alert had come at 0300. By 0330, every tank in Iron Company was moving. Brennan stood in the commander's hatch of his command vehicle, watching the column of Abrams tanks roll through the darkness. 28 machines, 140 souls. Everything he had built over 12 months. Now heading toward the coast where Chinese landing craft would soon arrive. The night air was cold on his face. Above, the stars were invisible behind cloud cover. Perfect conditions for invasion. Low visibility, confused defenders. The Chinese had planned well. Torres was in the operations vehicle coordinating movement. Walsh was managing logistics, ensuring ammunition and fuel trucks stayed with the column. Chen was on radio nets, coordinating with Taiwanese military command. Lin was leading the advance element. Everyone had their role. Everyone knew what to do. They had rehearsed this exact scenario 50 times in training, but this time the bullets would be real. The defensive line was a ridge overlooking Taichung coastline. 20 kilometers of beaches where intelligence said the PLA would land. Iron Company's 28 tanks would cover the northern 8 kilometers. Taiwanese regular armor units would cover the south. Infantry would hold the urban areas behind them. It was not enough. Even Brennan knew that. 28 tanks against what intelligence estimated was 140 Chinese armored vehicles in the first wave. But numbers weren't everything. Positioning mattered. Training mattered. Will mattered. They reached the ridge at U445. Dawn was still an hour away. Crews positioned their tanks in hull-down positions. Only the turrets visible over the ridgeline. Maximum protection. Maximum fields of fire. Brennan established his command post in a reinforced position 200 meters behind the line. From here, he could coordinate all 28 tanks while maintaining overview of the battlefield. At 0515, the first reports came in. PLA missile strikes hitting air bases across Taiwan. Radar stations, command centers, power infrastructure, the preparatory bombardment before invasion. At 0530, dawn broke, gray light spreading across the Taiwan Strait, and there on the horizon, ships, dozens of them, then hundreds, the invasion fleet. "All Iron Guard units," Brennan spoke into the radio, voice calm despite his racing heart. "Enemy fleet visible. Stand by. Do not engage until ordered. Conserve ammunition. Wait for them to close range." The minutes crawled by. The ships grew larger. Landing craft separated from the main fleet. Smaller vessels carrying troops and vehicles toward the beaches. At 0612, the first amphibious vehicles emerged from the water 4,000 meters offshore. ZTD-05 light tanks, Chinese amphibious armor, designed to swim ashore and provide fire support for infantry. All units, weapons free, engage amphibious armor, prioritize vehicles still in water. Sarah Wu's Crew 18 had the best angle from the northern position. Her gunner Sergeant Lee acquired the first target. "Gunner Sabot, amphibious vehicle, identified. Fire." The 120-millimeter gun roared. Across 3.2 kilometers, the Sabot round took less than 2 seconds to impact. The ZTD-05 exploded, ammunition cooking off, sinking into the strait. First kill of the war. Then 14 more Abrams opened fire simultaneously. The sound was overwhelming. Thunder multiplied. Sabot rounds crossing kilometers in heartbeats, striking thin-skinned amphibious vehicles with catastrophic results. In 90 seconds, 18 ZTD-05s were destroyed. The remaining 22 retreated back into deeper water or behind beached vessels for cover. Cease fire, conserve ammunition, wait for next wave. Brennan watched through his optics. The Chinese would adapt. They wouldn't keep sending light vehicles against prepared defenses. Next would come the real armor. At 0645, larger landing craft hit the beaches. Ramps dropped. Type 99A main battle tanks rolled onto Taiwanese soil. These were different. Heavy armor, 125mm guns, peer competitors to the Abrams. This would not be target practice. All units, priority targets are Type 99A heavy armor. Engage at maximum effective range. Shoot and scoot. Do not remain stationary after firing. Mike Shu's Crew 12 was positioned on the southern end of Iron Company's line. He had clear fields of fire across the beach. His gunner acquired a Type 99A at 1,800 meters. Gunner, Sabot, tank. Identified. Fire, direct hit on frontal armor. The Sabot round impacted the Type 99A's composite armor at tremendous velocity. But the Type 99A kept moving. The armor had held. Target still active. Fire again. Second shot. This time aimed at the turret ring, the junction between turret and hull. Weaker armor. The Sabot penetrated. The Type 99A stopped. Crew evacuating. Target destroyed. Moving to secondary position. Shu's driver backed the tank down the reverse slope, moved 50 meters lateral, repositioned. By the time Chinese return fire landed, they were gone. This was the new doctrine. Shoot and scoot. Never remain in one position. Make the enemy reacquire with every engagement. Use mobility to offset their numbers. By 0730, 60 Type 99A tanks had landed. Iron Company had destroyed 28, but lost 2 tanks. American Crew 8 took a direct hit from coordinated fire. The ammunition detonated. 3 crew killed instantly. 1 survived with severe burns. Brennan felt the loss like a physical blow. 3 soldiers under his command, dead. First casualties, but not the last. Iron Guard units, fall back to secondary defensive line. Execute withdrawal by alternating crews, covering fire. The withdrawal was textbook. Half the tanks pulled back while the other half provided covering fire. Then they swapped, bounding overwatch in reverse. By 0815, Iron Company had repositioned to prepared positions 2 kilometers inland. The Chinese pressed forward. Their doctrine was overwhelming firepower. Advance in mass. Accept casualties, keep pushing. They had the numbers to sustain losses that would break other units. By 0900, the beach was secure for Chinese forces. 80 Type 99A tanks had landed. Iron Company had killed 40, but lost 5 tanks total. The mathematics were brutal. For every Chinese tank destroyed, they had 10 more. For every Abrams lost, Iron Company had none. Brennan called Torres. "We can't sustain this attrition rate. We need support. Air Force is grounded, most fighters destroyed in missile strikes. Navy is engaging the fleet, but can't provide close support. We're on our own, Jim." Then we adapt. Tell all crews to switch to harassment tactics. Hit and run, ambush from unexpected angles. Make them cautious. Slow their advance. Lieutenant James Huang's Crew 19 was positioned in an urban area near the coast. Buildings provided cover. Streets created choke points. This was where tanks were most vulnerable, but also where clever tactics could multiply effectiveness. Huang had learned. He wasn't the hesitant commander from training. War had burned away uncertainty. Now he was focused, clear, decisive. Driver, position behind that building. Gunner, watch the intersection. Any tank that rounds that corner, you engage immediately. They waited. 60 seconds. 90. Then a Type 99A appeared, moving cautiously through the intersection. Gunner, Sabot, tank, fire. Side shot at 200 meters. The Type 99A's side armor was weaker. The Sabot penetrated. Kill. Driver, back up. Go. Go now. They were moving before Chinese forces could respond. 3 blocks away in 30 seconds, relocated, reset, waited for next opportunity. This was urban warfare. Patient, methodical, deadly. By 1100, the battle had been raging for 5 hours. Iron Company was down to 23 operational tanks. Chinese forces had landed over 100 armored vehicles, but lost 65 to Iron Company's guns. Then Brennan received the call he had been dreading. Iron Guard 6, this is Falcon Lead. U.S. Navy strike package inbound. Request you transmit positions all friendly armor. We have clearance to engage PLA landing zones. Thomas, his son's battle group, coming to help, but also potentially coming to kill him if coordinates were wrong. Falcon led, Iron Guard 6, transmitting friendly positions now. Be advised we have units in urban terrain. Blue on blue risk is high. Copy Iron Guard, we have your positions. Danger close air support protocols in effect. Brennan switched to company net. All Iron Guard units, friendly airstrikes inbound. Mark your positions with IR strobes. Do not, I repeat, do not move from marked positions during strike package delivery. Aircraft cannot distinguish friend from foe at engagement speeds. The FA-18 Super Hornets came in low and fast. Brennan couldn't see them, but he could hear them. The roar of jet engines. Then the impacts. Precision-guided weapons hitting Chinese ships still offshore. Secondary explosions as ammunition stores detonated. Ships listing, sinking, burning. No more reinforcements would land. The Chinese forces ashore were isolated, but they were still dangerous, still numerous, still fighting. At 11:45, Brennan received tactical update. Chinese tanks were forming for coordinated push. Concentration of force, trying to break through its single point. All units, enemy preparing major assault. Concentrate fires on breakthrough corridor. This is the fight. Hold here or lose everything. The Chinese attack came at 1200. 30 Type 99A tanks advancing in coordinated formation. Supporting infantry, mobile artillery, everything they had left. Iron Company's 23 tanks opened fire from prepared positions. The sound was apocalyptic. Guns firing, shells impacting, smoke and fire and chaos. But the Chinese kept coming. Accept casualties, keep pushing. 7 tanks destroyed, then 8, then 10, but 20 still advancing. At 300 meters, it became point-blank range. No time for careful aim, just acquisition and fire. Crews loading as fast as humanly possible. Gunners engaging target after target. Crew 19, James Huang's team, destroyed 2 Type 99As before taking a hit. The shell penetrated the side armor. Loader killed instantly. Gunner wounded. But the tank still functioned. Evacuate! Get out! Huang and his surviving crew abandoned the burning tank, ran for cover. The tank's ammunition cooked off seconds after they escaped. Sarah Wu's Crew 18 was fighting from a hull-down position. Her gunner Lee was performing like a machine. Target, fire. Acquire, fire. 7 confirmed kills. 8, 9. Then a Type 99 shell hit her tank's turret. The armor held, but the impact damaged the fire control system. They were effectively blind. Backup sights, Wu ordered. Gunner, manual targeting. Lee switched to the old-fashioned optical sight, slower, less accurate, but it worked. He continued engaging. 10 kills, 11 Mike Shu's crew. 12 was in the thick of fighting, his driver maneuvering between cover positions. His gunner engaging targets at ranges from 1,500 meters to 100. His loader working so fast his hands were bleeding. 12 confirmed kills. 13. Then Shu saw it. A Type 99A with additional antenna. Command tank, Zhang Wei. Gunner, priority target. Command tank, 1,200 meters, moving left to right. Fire when ready. The gunner tracked. Compensated for movement. Fired. The shot hit the Type 99A's side armor. Penetration. The Chinese tank lurched to a stop. Crew evacuating. One figure limping. Older man, iron gray hair visible even at distance. Zhang Wei, the ghost from Desert Storm. Defeated. All units, enemy command tank destroyed. Press the attack. The Chinese assault broke. Without coordination, without leadership. Individual tanks still fought, but the organized push collapsed. They began falling back toward the beach. By 1330, it was over. The surviving Chinese tanks retreated to defensive positions near the shore. Cut off, no reinforcements, no resupply. Isolated. Brennan surveyed the battlefield through his optics. Burning vehicles everywhere. Chinese, and American, and Taiwanese. The cost had been terrible. Iron Company had started the day with 28 tanks. Now they had 13 operational, 15 destroyed, 47 crew members killed, 38 wounded. But they had held. The Chinese invasion had failed. The beachhead was contained. The breakthrough had been stopped. Torres approached Brennan's position. His face was blackened with smoke, his uniform torn. "We did it, Jim. We actually did it." "At what cost?" Brennan gestured toward the burning tanks. 47 dead. "Those are our people, Miguel. They're heroes. They saved Taiwan. 23 million people still free because of what they did today." Brennan knew Torres was right, but it didn't ease the weight. 47 families would receive notifications. 47 flag-draped coffins. 47 lives ended. He thought about Danny Morrison, 34 years ago, screaming on the radio. Now 47 more names added to that memory. At 1400, Brennan received call on secure line. USS Ronald Reagan. "Dad?" Thomas's voice, shaking. "Dad, are you alive?" "I'm alive, Tom. We're alive. We held. I watched the whole thing on the feeds. I saw your tanks. I saw the Chinese assault. I thought I was going to watch you die. But you didn't. We both did our jobs. We both survived. Dad, I love you. I just need you to know that. I love you." "I love you too, son. Now go back to work. The war isn't over yet." But it was, effectively. Over the next 3 days, isolated Chinese forces surrendered or were eliminated. The fleet withdrew under continued airstrikes. Beijing announced successful military exercise and began negotiations. The invasion had failed, and Zhang Wei's brigade had been destroyed. 96 Type 99A tanks reduced to 9 operational, 60% casualties among personnel. A week after the battle, Brennan visited Taiwanese military hospital. Wounded crew members recovering, burns, shrapnel injuries, trauma. He found James Huang in a bed, arm in sling, bandages on face, but alive. "Sir," Huang tried to sit up. "Stay down, Lieutenant. How are you feeling?" "Lucky to be alive. My crew, Danny Huang, my loader, he didn't make it." "I know, I'm sorry." "He saved us, sir. When the hit came, he pushed the gunner out first. Took an extra 2 seconds. Those seconds killed him." Brennan pulled up a chair, sat beside the bed. He was a good soldier. They all were. "Sir, I wanted to thank you for not giving up on me. During training, I wanted to quit so many times. But you kept pushing, kept believing I could do it. Because of you, I was able to lead my crew. I was able to save most of them." "You saved them, Lieutenant, not me. You made the decisions. You gave the orders. You got them out. That's command. That's what it means." "Will you tell Danny's family that he was a hero?" "I will. I'll tell all the families. Every single one." 2 weeks after the battle, ceremony at Taipei Memorial Hall. The 47 killed in action honored. Families present, Taiwanese president speaking, American ambassador speaking. Flags at half-mast. Brennan stood at attention as names were read, each one a person he had known, trained, led into combat. When the ceremony ended, families approached him, some angry, some grateful, all grieving. One woman, elderly, walked up. She spoke in Mandarin. Robert Chen translated. She says her grandson was in Crew 8, killed in first hour of battle. She wants to know why you survived and he didn't. Brennan looked at the woman, saw the pain in her eyes, the anger, the need for someone to blame. "Tell her I don't know. Tell her I've asked myself that question about other soldiers for 34 years. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her grandson died defending his country. Tell her I will remember him." Chen translated. The woman listened. Then she reached out and took Brennan's hand, said something else. She says thank you for training him, for giving him a chance to fight. She says you gave him purpose. After she left, Brennan stood alone looking at the memorial wall. 47 names added to Danny Morrison's name in his memory, added to all the others over 35 years. The weight never got lighter. You just learned to carry it. 3 months later, Brennan stood at departure terminal in Taiwan Taoyuan Airport. His time was done. Mission complete. He was going home. Torres, Walsh, Chen, and Lin were there to see him off. Sarah Wu came. Mike Shu came. James Huang came on crutches. All the surviving crew members who could make it. "Sir," Sarah Wu said, "we wanted to give you something." She handed him a framed photograph. Iron Company, all 28 original tanks, all 140 original crew members, taken the day before the battle. "We're staying, sir, rebuilding Iron Company, training new crews. Taiwan is giving us permanent commissions. But we wanted you to remember where it started. With you, the old man who taught us how to fight." Brennan looked at the photograph, saw faces of the living and the dead, saw himself older than he'd ever felt, standing among warriors half his age. "You don't need me anymore. You know what to do. Just remember what I taught you. Stay sharp, stay ready, and take care of each other." The flight home took 20 hours. Brennan slept most of it, exhausted, empty, ready to be done. When he landed in Georgia, Thomas was waiting at the airport. His son, in dress whites, 34 years old now, a man. They hugged without speaking. No words were necessary. They had both survived their war. That was enough. 6 months after that, Brennan stood at Arlington National Cemetery, not visiting Margaret's grave this time, attending a ceremony. Taiwanese government had requested permission to erect memorial for the 47 Iron Company members killed in action. American Defense Department had approved. The memorial stood in a quiet corner of Arlington. Simple stone, 47 names, English and Chinese characters. Brennan stood before it as sun set. Alone now, everyone else had left. "I kept them alive as long as I could," he whispered. "Some longer than others. But I kept training them, kept pushing them, kept preparing them. It wasn't enough to save all of you, it never is, but it was everything I had." He reached out, touched one name. Private Danny Huang, James Huang's loader, 22 years old, died pushing his gunner to safety. "You reminded me of the other Danny," Brennan said. "Same courage, same sacrifice. I hope wherever you are, you both know you mattered. You both made a difference." He walked away as night fell. Back to his car, back to his life, back to being a civilian after 36 years of service. The nightmares would continue, he knew that. Danny Morrison's screams, now mixed with new sounds, new voices, new ghosts. But he had learned to carry them, had learned that command meant living with impossible choices and terrible outcomes, had learned that doing your best didn't mean everyone survived. It just meant you didn't quit, you didn't run. You stood and fought and endured, like iron. Iron doesn't break, it bends, it endures, it holds. And that was enough. 1 year later, Brennan received a letter from Taiwan. Sarah Wu writing to inform him that Iron Company had been fully reconstituted. 44 Abrams, new crews, trained to the same standard Brennan had established. "We named the base after you," she wrote, "Camp Brennan. So every soldier who trains here knows the standard, knows what's expected, knows that age is no excuse for not doing your duty. You taught us that iron doesn't break. We're still iron, still holding, still ready. Thank you for everything." Iron Guard 6. Actual, signing off. Brennan folded the letter, put it with Margaret's photograph, with Danny Morrison's dog tags, with the picture of Iron Company from that last day. These were his treasures, his memories, his proof that he had mattered, that the years meant something, that the sacrifices weren't wasted. He was 63 now, too old for war, too tired for anything except teaching occasional classes at Fort Benning and spending time with his son. Thomas had left the Navy, married, first grandchild on the way, building the peaceful life that Brennan's generation had fought to secure. That was the whole point, Brennan realized. Not glory, not victory, just giving the next generation a chance to live without war, without fear, without having to make the choices that haunted their fathers. He had done that, not perfectly, not without cost, but he had done it, and that was enough. On quiet evenings, Brennan would sit on his porch and watch the sunset. Sometimes he thought about Taiwan, about Zhang Wei, now in Chinese military prison for failing his mission, about the tanks still holding the line, about the crews still training. Sometimes he thought about Danny Morrison, about Margaret, about the 47 names on the wall in Arlington. But mostly he thought about the 23 million people in Taiwan who woke up free, who lived their lives, who raised their families, who never knew how close they came to losing everything. They were why he had gone, why he had fought, why he had endured, and in the end, they were enough reason. Iron Guard Battalion still exists, still trains, still stands ready. The legacy continues. The standard remains. The iron holds. And somewhere in Georgia, an old tank commander sleeps more peacefully than he has in years. The ghosts still visit, but they're quieter now, more forgiving, because he had finished his war, and he had done it right. That was all any warrior could ask. The end.